Hello and welcome to Greek Gauntlet. This is our latest turn-based strategy card game, in which players will take on the role of various characters from Greek mythology and battle out their opponent on the playing field. Before we do get into the live demonstration of the game, I'd like to go over the rules briefly, as well as cover a few creative decisions that were made along the way to overall improve the game. First, I'd like to start with the overall objective of the game, which is quite simple. Your goal is to win by either defeating all of your opponent's characters on the board, or by at least defeating 5 total characters across the board. Keep that in mind because this game is a tactical battle of endurance and strategy. Next is the setup of the game. Each player has 40 cards on their deck. It's important to shuffle it well because some cards are more useful and important than others. Next, players will draw 5 cards to form your opening hand. But here's the catch. If you don't have a character card on hand, you have to reshuffle and draw 5 again, because it is a requirement to have at least one character card to fight. Next, players will decide who goes first. This is either done through a casual agreement or by a coin toss that is built into the game already. Next, I'd like to go over the turn structure of the game, which is split into 4. There's first the draw phase, the play phase, the resolve phase, and then lastly, the discard phase. For the draw phase, players have to draw 1 card from their deck, as well as 1 energy card from the energy card deck. Energy in this game is basically your fuel, and whatever your resources that you need to do. It is basically a resource that is useful to help you summon characters, retreating, or using attacks. Next, there's the play phase. Before you can make any moves, you must at least have 1 character card on the board. If you don't, you're stuck until you do. Now, as long as you've got someone on the field, you have stamina to continue. You can use this energy or stamina to move, attack, activate abilities, or retreat, as long as you've got energy to pay for it. There's basically no limit on how many actions you can take in one single turn as long as the energy permits. Next, there's the resolve phase. This is where the attacks happen. Each character can attack once per turn, unless they have a special ability attachment saying otherwise. Make sure that your target is also within range because it is shown on the card and it's a very important feature. Once you attack, you have to send the energy card that you use to the discard pile on your side. If you defeat a character, that card and all of its attachments will go to your opponent's discard pile. Now lastly, there's the discard phase. You may discard 1 card from your hand if you want, and do whatever you must. And then after that, you declare the end of your turn, and then your opponent goes next. Lastly, there is the retreating mechanic. Let's say you want to swap out a character on the field. You can retreat them by spending energy. 2 energy to retreat frontline characters, and 1 energy for backline characters. And once they retreat, they lose all attached equipment, and they can't come back to play until your next turn. Now I'd also like to go over the card types briefly. There are a few types of cards in your deck. They're character cards who are main fighters. These are the characters and creatures that you cast into the field, and they come with descriptions of special abilities and attacks, as well as their health bar and range. There's also equipment cards. These equipment cards are attached to your characters to boost their powers and abilities and also assist them in attacking. Please keep in mind that some of these cards are exclusive to certain fighters, meaning that they must be paired with the listed fighter in order to be used. Next, there are energy cards, which are basically your fuel for your actions and attacks. A new energy card will be drawn per round, but this can vary based on special abilities and etc. Characters also have the ability to separate from regular attacks. These can be used once per turn unless the card says otherwise, and they don't count as your standard attack. Lastly, the important thing is to win the game. It's important to utilize your energy as well as mixing and matching your character cards with various special abilities in order to outmatch your opponent. Lastly, another important key tip that I want to point out is that our game does come with built-in cooldown trackers, as well as a manual health depleter to help keep track of the game.
Now we're done with the rules and setup explanation. Let's get into some gameplay. So they're gonna flip a coin. Blue is heads, or red is heads, blue is tails. Tails. So blue will be starting. They'll start their game with drawing 5 cards. And they'll be placing down any character cards that they have to start the game.
They can both also do however much they can within their turn as long as their energy permits them to.
Y'all ready? Ready. All right. So the blues round will start. It will start by drawing a card and drawing an energy. He'll look at see if he has anything he can attach to his cards. What he added was the Cloak of the Huntress, which if he flips a coin and gets heads, he will dodge the next attack.
So now it is Josh's turn. So he played out Artemis onto his field and a Chimera.
Okay. Skip. That's
Right, Josh has just ended his turn. Now Brian will go next.
Brian picked Warhorn of Sparta, which he'll be attaching to Odysseus. That does is all the allies get increased 2 damage on the next attack. He'll be using Cloak of the Huntress. He is discarding 2 energy in order to use it. And it failed. He's ending his turn.
Now it is Josh's turn. Field of Megalius, an epic attachment card. Now Josh is deciding to end his turn, so Brian will go next.
Brian just drew the silver javelin, which does 3 damage and bleeds for 1 damage for 2 turns. He's going to use his character special ability, Petrifying Glare, on Artemis. What that does is it stuns the enemy for 1 turn. And now he goes to his counter and he puts down the cooldown. And he is ending his turn.
So Artemis is currently stunned on Josh's side. Now Josh has played out Hephaestus onto the field. And he's ending his turn.
Brian got the Iron Buckler, which he'll be attaching to his character. Another thing to note within the rule set that was mentioned earlier is that you can attach 2 equipment cards to a character, but they cannot be of the same rarity. He'll be using the Iron Buckler on Artemis. That does 1 damage, so he'll be decreasing the health by 1. And that will end the turn, and he will take off a counter for doing a turn for his ability. If you look at the opponent's item, because she did take damage, the special ability of the shields can be taken into effect. Though it just does 3 damage, it also can make your character immune to damage for the next turn if you were hit in the previous turn.
Now it is Josh's turn.
But two passive, so I want to buff this card to gain 2 extra power. So that.
So Josh decided to use Hephaestus' passive ability.
I'm going to be using Heptatus passive to buff up the Shield of Aglis card. Then I'm using 3 energy to attack this one, and then Artemis deals 2 extra damage to enemies at full health, so this thing gets one-shotted. So it's going to die, since in total it deals 7 damage.
All right, so that ended Josh's turn.
Brian just placed down Aegis Shield, which is an Athena exclusive to block all damage from the next attack. Ryan is now attaching the Smith's Tongs to reduce another equipment's energy cost by 2 for that round by using 1 energy, which would make his ability, Cloak of the Huntress, only cost 1.
What did I try? 2? Reduce.
Yes, yes,
This
for
one
that
uses
round.
2, so it should be 0.
Yeah, but it costs 1 for
Yeah.
the Smith's Tongs. So
Yeah,
technically,
it
you're
just-
only spending 1.
Okay, that's fair.
His heads. So the next attack that is done on Medusa is going to miss. He's going to go click his counter and then end his turn.
All right, now it is Josh's turn once again. All right, so we're going to do Josh's turn next.
I don't have anything to say, so I draw a card, my energy, and my attacking card. I'll say I'll skip.
All right, so that's the end of Josh's turn.
That our 10-minute gameplay of Greek.
All right, and that wraps up our brief gameplay demonstration. The game could go on for a lot longer until players are wiped out, but this was just to preview the gameplay and then show its different aspects and how it's played in real time. We hope you enjoyed the demonstration. That were made over time since the initial beginning of the game, which interestingly enough was actually called Titan's Gambit and was intended to be a fantasy game, but we decided to change it to Greek Gauntlet to appeal more to a wider audience. So in the earlier versions of Titan's Gambit, players simply drew stamina cards. This was a massive overhaul done to the energy system of the game. While players were simply drawing stamina cards, we modified it so now that energy, which is now what we call it, is seen as a source that accumulates over time. You start the game with a set amount and then draw one energy card per round, making it more of a valuable resource. This energy can be used to play characters, equip items, activate abilities, or retreat. Another thing we've modified is the retreat rule. Retreating used to require stamina based on the board position, but now we've decided to streamline that mechanic and make it a little bit better. So now, instead of freely doing it, you have to pay energy to retreat a player card to your bench. This adds a bit of more strategic play and resource management. That card that's been retreat loses attached equipment and can't return until the next play. This simplifies the decision-making process and also helps speed up the game. Next is the attacking aspect of the game, which we've also massively overhauled. Basically, our original game stated that you could freely attack and attack attachments were more easier drawn, making the game a lot faster to go by. But we've changed that, so now there's no longer any generic attacks, and if you don't draw one or have one, you basically can't attack that turn. Once you've played, you can attack any valid opponent in that range, and you can use abilities if you have the energy. Abilities are still separate from attacks and may have class-specific rules, but each character can only attack once per turn. But abilities may not count as attacks depending on their description. We've also updated the overall turn flow of the game. We've changed it so that each character has a draw phase, gains energy each round, and has an action phase where they can decide what to do. Before that, it was very unorganized and we didn't have a specific phase for the game. Before the improvements, players could basically do whatever they wanted, and it was a lot more cluttered and unorganized. But with this, we made it so that there's no limit to your actions per turn, but it still encourages strategic play based on the amount of energy you have. The class advantage system is also a new mechanic to the rules that we've introduced. Basically, each class or character has their own exclusive cards, including spells, gears, and buffs. Over time, we've refined the system to give each class a clear identity, like specific attachment cards that can only be attached to specific characters. And we've also added a balanced edge without dominating the gameplay and making it harder for one player than the other. Lastly, the most important aspect of the game that we've modified is that victory goes to the person that plays more strategically, because strategy is a major emphasis of this game. You only win by defeating all your opponents' player cards or by wiping out 5. Every card counts and every energy card counts. Some minor aspects that we've also changed is the board. The board was changed because the initial design was very clustered and featured too many piles and decks, which could get confusing. So we simplified it so that the amount of cards that are on the board can only be there one at a time, and too many stacks to draw from. There are too many stacks to draw from, so we put it into one to increase the randomness of the cards drawn. The piles of equipment and characters will be combined while still creating a second pile. The original concept of Fire, Frost, Flame, and Elemental classes were scrapped in exchange for character-exclusive attacks or class-exclusive attacks for specific gods, monsters, etc. This was an initial design hurdle because it was hard figuring out which classes balance out which and which rival which another, and it's also too many cards to keep track of. We've also modified the card design, so the original card featured health, effects, energy boosts, and weaknesses, as well as compatibilities. But this was again another major design hurdle because it was too hard to consolidate all that information in one. So over time, we developed a new card design which shows much more simpler stats, such as the range, the HP, their ability description, and certain compatible attachments. Overall, we have made numerous changes to the rules and other subtle changes to help make the game more appealing to wider audiences and provide mechanics that are also easy to learn but also encourage strategic gameplay.